Thank you for joining us on Business Now. I am Perpetua Fasomi Peter, and now the news in detail. The Senate on Wednesday failed to consider and pass the 22.7 trillion naira Ways and Means restructuring request forwarded to it and the House of Representatives by President Muhammadu Buhari. Buhari had sent in the request sometime in December 2022 for expeditious consideration. The Senate President Ahmad Lawan had last Tuesday declared the Senate was ready to approve the request, provided the required details of the spending were made available by the executive. The River West Senator Betty Opiafi on Wednesday said the approval would not be granted until the details were made available. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, has declared his readiness to issue a warrant of arrest on the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, if he fails to appear before its committee on Thursday. Gbajabiamila said instead of the House adjourning plenary till February 28 for the elections as planned, the lawmakers would reconvene on Tuesday to take an action against Emefiele and other bank chiefs who failed to show up. The Speaker, who noted that Emefiele is his friend, pointed out that he would not hesitate to demand the Inspector General of Police to effect the CBN Governor's arrest and forceful appearance before the House. The House had set up an ad hoc committee to investigate the scarcity of the new naira at the deposit money banks, DMBs, also known as commercial banks, leading to tension over the January 31 deadline set by the CBN for the exchange of the old notes with the newly designed ones. Chairman of the committee, Al-Hassan Adodogowa, at the plenary on Thursday informed the House about the non-appearance of the CBN chiefs before it on Wednesday, noting that the committee had rescheduled the meeting to 1 p.m. on Thursday. However, Gbajabiamila also informed the House that the CBN had written to the clerk, informing the House of Emefiele's inability to appear before the committee on Thursday. The Speaker said the House would exercise its powers as contained in Section 89 of the 1999 Constitution, while also noting that the CBN Act allows the admittance of an old naira note by banks even after it had ceased to be legal tender. The leader of INRI Evangelical Spiritual Church, Primate Elijah Ayodele, has advised the CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele to reconsider the January 31 deadline for the old naira notes to become invalid. According to him, the newly redesigned naira is a device to inflict pains on poor Nigerian masses. In a statement signed by his media aide, Osho Oluwatosi, Primate Ayodele said the CBN governor has destroyed the economy of the country, while re-echoing his statement that the naira redesign will not amount to anything tangible for the country. He explained that the naira redesign and deadline is affecting the poor masses, that the hardship will continue even in the next government because the destroyed economy will still be transferred to the next leadership. The prophet described the money change process as a wrong advice at a wrong time because it will not address corruption, as politicians will always find their way around it, and the poor masses will be the ones suffering for the inefficiency of Mr. Godwin Emefiele. The Port and Terminal Multipurpose Limited Command of the Nigeria Customs Service has said that the introduction of Vehicles Identification Number (VIN) for clearing of imported vehicles led to a 40% drop in imported vehicles in 2022. The outgoing controller of the command, Acting Assistant Controller General Suleiman Bumai, who disclosed this while briefing journalists on the activities of the command for the year, said the command generated 229 billion naira as revenue into the federal government coffers in 2022. He said that the figure represented 96% of the revenue target of 238 billion naira set for the command for the period under review. Bumai said the revenue generated was 5 billion naira higher than the 224 billion naira revenue collected in the corresponding period of 2021. He reiterated that some government policies such as VIN affected automobile importation through the command within the year under review. Bumai said the absence of scanners in the command was one of the major challenges the command faced in 2022, as it would have reduced the issue of 100% physical examination of containerized cargo. Bumai said that the command handled exports of commodities such as cocoa, sesame seeds, palm oil and other food items with 178 metric tons, with a free on-board value of $249 million in 2022. President Muhammadu Buhari on Wednesday in Senegal lauded the provision of $538.05 million by the African Development Bank, the Islamic Development Bank, and the International Fund for Agricultural Development for the first phase of the Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zones for Nigeria program. This was as he urged his counterparts to allocate at least 10% of the nation's budget to agriculture, as agreed in the Malabo Declaration of the African Heads of State and Government. Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, revealed this in a statement he signed on Wednesday titled, "How Africa Can Feed Itself, Produce Surplus for Export," by President Buhari. Applauding the efforts of the African Development Bank to launch SAPZ, Buhari said the Special Agro-Industrialized Processing Zones, SAPZ for Nigeria, which is in the first phase, will cover 7 states in the Federation. He described the SAPs as game changers for the structural transformation of the agricultural sector and urged his counterparts to give special attention to the zones as member states develop their food and agriculture delivery compacts. The president also noted that the future of agriculture in Africa would depend on getting more youth into agriculture, which means making agriculture attractive for them. The National Association of Road Transport Owners on Wednesday charged its members involved in the haulage of petroleum products to refrain from diverting the commodities in order to effectively address the crisis in Nigeria's downstream oil sector. It said fuel transporters must shun activities that could sabotage the federal government's efforts to surmount the challenge crippling the effective movement of goods and services across the country. NATO President Yusuf Uthman, who gave the charge in Abuja, also absolved the retail arm of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited of the blame for the current scarcity of premium motor spirit, popularly called petrol. The NATO president commended the federal government for setting up a 14-man panel on petroleum product supply and distribution management to be chaired by the president. The Maritala International Airport Command of the Nigerian Customs Service on Wednesday disclosed that it generated total revenue of 20 billion naira last year. The Customs Area Controller in charge of the command, Mohammed Gidado, in a statement said there was 1.8 billion naira increase in revenue when compared to the 19 billion naira the command collected in 2021. He attributed the increase to the integrity of passengers in the declaration of goods and a high level of compliance towards voluntary payment of duties. Gidado said the seamless travelers clearance procedure adopted by the command over the period is worthwhile, as evidenced in the MMIA command revenue collected from August to December 2022, implying the effectiveness of initiated and adopted strategies. The UK government has launched the Developing Countries Trading Scheme in Nigeria, which would enable the country to benefit from free duty trade on exported goods. A statement from the British Deputy High Commission, Lagos, said the DCTS offers one of the most generous sets of trading preferences in the world and demonstrates the UK's commitment to building long-term, mutually beneficial relationships with countries like Nigeria. The launch took place on Wednesday in Lagos, and the DCTS would come into force in the spring of 2023, replacing the UK's generalized scheme of preferences. According to the statement, the DCTS benefits 65 countries, 35 of which are African, and will mean that Nigeria benefits from duty-free trade on over 9,200 products. It added that development is significantly more generous than both the EU's GSM scheme and the US AGOA scheme, and based on current trade volumes would mean that 99% of goods exports to the UK are duty-free. Speaking on the launch, UK Deputy British High Commissioner in Lagos, Ben Llewellyn-Jones, said Nigeria is one of the UK's most important partners in Africa, and the UK government is committed to working with Nigerian businesses and exporters to boost trade between both great nations. The chairman of Rural Electrification Agency, Federal Ministry of Power, Danlami Kofi, has revealed that the agency's Nigeria electrification project has created 1,151 jobs and saved 249,193 tons of carbon dioxide. Kofi made a disclosure in Kano Wednesday during a briefing on the implementation level of the NEP. He explained that electricity has been provided for 5 million Nigerians through 1.022 connections, with at least 52 megawatts of renewable electricity generated in the off-grid sphere across the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory, FCT. On his part, the Managing Director, Rural Electrification Agency, Federal Minister of Power, Mr. Ahmad Salihijo Ahmad, lauded the World Bank and the African Development Bank for granting the agency $550 million, that's approximately 241.8 billion naira funds. Ahmad noted that out of the $550 million NEP fund, REA has disbursed $64.8 million to contractors, with over $300 million commitment made for procurement of equipment for the contractors.